Christ has no body now but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks, compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands.
The 11 disciples set out for Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had arranged to meet them. When they saw him, they fell down before him, though some hesitated. Jesus came up and spoke to them. He said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore, make disciples of all nations. Baptize them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teach them to observe all the commandments I gave you. And know that I am with you always, yes, to the end of time."
Compassion on this world. Christ has no body now on earth but yours.
Isn't it amazing what we've been able to live without over the last couple of months? Things at one time we would have thought were essential to our way of life. I'd never have believed if you told me at the beginning of the year that I'd still be cycling without the incentive of a decent coffee and a scone partway round the course. I never thought I'd survive 8 weeks of lockdown without a catch-up once in a while with my brother over a pint or two. We've survived without restaurants and carry-outs. We haven't really noticed the lack of hairdressers. We've maintained our levels of sartorial elegance without the constant need to shop to keep up with the latest fashions. And I haven't even noticed the lack of sport.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now. It's 4. And Charlton.
We've survived without churches. I'm sure no one would have imagined, as we celebrated Christmas with churches overflowing, that by Easter they'd all be closed and empty. But they are. And the world's kept on turning. We haven't all of a sudden become any worse sinners than we were beforehand. We haven't all lost our faith. In fact, some people have been searching for ways of nourishing that faith, even deepening that faith, without the comfort of the routine and the familiarity of what we gain through our participation in churches. I haven't joined many and been tempted to watch masses streamed. Or to be honest, I have occasionally been tempted, but it's lasted less than a couple of minutes once I've actually tuned in. Primarily because, for me, it's just not mass. I've spent pretty much my entire priesthood encouraging full, active, conscious participation in liturgy. Mass isn't a spectator sport. I think our reliance on Mass being streamed is dangerous because it encourages that thought that Mass is what clergy do and others watch. That's what worries me most about this present situation, that streamed Masses serve to reinforce clericalism in our church, the overemphasis of the importance and the role of the clergy. Through baptism, We have all been commissioned, chosen and authorized to share in the life and the ministry and the mission of Christ. All of us, not just some, not just a few, but all of us. Anne Faulkner posted an article on the Facebook page last week. It was from the German bishops who, despite now being able to reopen their churches, were actually discouraging people from an immediate return to Mass. Instead, they were asking them to celebrate liturgies of the Word in small groups for a while first. They talked of their uneasiness in the myth, the false belief that faith would break down if people couldn't get to Mass, didn't receive communion. It hasn't been the case, and it won't be. There have been times throughout history when people haven't been able to access the Eucharist, but faith in God has continued. In fact, it's often at such times that faith in God has thrived. Today's Feast of the Ascension is a feast of Christ's commissioning of all of us, not just some, not just a few, but of all of us. Lockdown and our reliance on Mass being streamed into people's homes has saddened me. It's highlighted our over-dependence on the clergy, often at the expense, perhaps, of our own relationship with Christ. That's what discipleship's about. It's about relationship, and a relationship for which we are each personally responsible. This present situation, COVID-19, has invited us all to look once again at that relationship and to ask how we nourish it, or how dependent we have become on others to provide that nourishment for us. It's also given us an opportunity to ask ourselves how freely we share of our own personal relationship with Christ, and how much we sit back and allow others to do that on our behalf.